Shalom. Welcome to Understanding the World with Rabbi David Kaufman. I am pleased to have not only our normal co-host, Mark Finkelstein, joining me in the studio today, but also Pastor M.D. Epwright of Faith Tabernacle Church in West Des Moines. Once again, we're thankful for our show sponsor, Dr. Ronald Bergman, and Bergman Folkers Cosmetic Surgery and Spa. And first off, we'll start with the world in 5 minutes. The big issue going on in the world right now is certainly, actually several issues going on in the world right now. The one that seems to be at the forefront of everybody's mind right now is what's going on in Ukraine, and particularly the eastern part, Crimea. The reason for that is very simple. This has been a place that has been the cause of numerous conflicts, or at least the front line of conflicts between the East and the West, literally, for the last 161 years. I wrote about it on my blog today. If you're interested, rabbikaufman.blogspot.com. Why should we care about the Crimea? Well, if you go back a long time ago, that there has been a conflict between Europe, the West in general, and Russia concerning this territory and concerning the region. And the fact that the conflict in that area has not been settled since the 1850s, really since 1853, dealing with the conflict between Russia at that time, Russia and the Ottoman Empire, along with Europe and Austria, France, Britain, and Austria particularly. The conflict has simply continued, and it hasn't been settled. The eastern part of Ukraine, particularly places like Sevastopol, not only is overwhelmingly, if not entirely, Russian-speaking, Russian-affiliated population of Ukraine, but there's also a giant Russian naval base there with a lease until 2042 and 15,000 Russian naval personnel and soldiers and support personnel sitting there in Sevastopol. So when you think about Ukraine and you say, oh, it's not Russia, the Russians should stay out of Ukraine, you have no idea what's going on. The Russians are there. And there are also Europeans there. And there are also a population of Ukrainians who want to be connected to Europe and not to Russia, for the most part. So it's a very complicated situation. I'd urge you to read the article, rabbikaufman.blogspot.com, with a little bit of historical background, because those who don't know their history are doomed to repeat it. In addition to what's going on in the Ukraine, a similar conflict is going on in Syria. It is not a brand new conflict. It has been going on for a very long time. But in Syria, we have various groups that are vying for control. And they're not only vying for control in a modern sense, they're vying for control in the same way that they've been vying for control over the last multiple hundred years. And in a Syrian city in the north, a city called Raqqa, which has a significant Christian population in addition to a Muslim population, the city has been under the control of the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, which is a Muslim militant group. And they have decided to enforce traditional Islamic law, and going back hundreds of years, not modern years. We're talking about 7th century, 8th century Islamic law, where if Christians and Jews want to live peaceably with the Muslim population, they need to consider themselves dhimmis, which is a subservient people, and follow the laws that are applied to them in the Islamic tradition. Things like, and in this case, the Christians of Raqqa agreed to, abstaining from renovating churches or monasteries, not to display crosses or religious symbols in public or use loudspeakers in prayer, not to read scripture indoors loud enough for Muslims standing outside to hear, not to undertake subversive actions against Muslims, not to carry out any religious ceremonies outside the church, not to prevent any Christian wishing to convert to Islam from doing so, to respect Islam and Muslims and say nothing offensive about them, to pay the jizya tax worth 4 golden dinars for the rich, 2 for the average, and 1 for the poor twice annually. This is something that is only applicable to dhimmi populations. It's a tax on non-Muslims. For each adult Christian, to refrain from drinking alcohol in public and to dress modestly. So just in case you think we're in the modern world, we are still not. In certain parts of the world. You also have, obviously, ongoing peace negotiations and any number of other things that are going on that we'll be talking about a little bit today, perhaps, and certainly in the weeks to come. This has been The World in 5 Minutes.